Ready, Studio 8. We go live in 15 seconds. Are you ready, John?
Ready as I'll ever be.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And now on Rough Diamond Radio, we have the next instalment of the award-winning The Thoughts of Chairman Greg.
Award-winning? That prat couldn't even pass an idiot test.
Well, that's what my script says.
Well, I didn't write it. Who cares? Roll the music.
Well, hello. Today's topic is space. Or as they say on Star Trek, space, the final frontier. Final frontier, my arse. They want to do something useful, like finding a cure for hemorrhoids before going off gallivanting through fucking space. Well, I ask you, what would benefit mankind more? The development of a cream or a pill that instantly cures that painful condition that affects millions of people across the globe, or some bubble-headed tinfoil-wrapped Herbert sticking a flag on the surface of Mars? However, if you are one of the few who do think that going to Mars will be more beneficial to mankind, all I've got to say is, you'll be sorry when them bad boy hemorrhoids turn up for the first time sunbeam. And I guarantee you watching the moon landings on a video loop won't make you feel any better. Now, space. This is one topic that really screws in my grey matter. Space is full of wonders, inconceivable concepts and unimaginable distances. And it's just chock-a-block with unanswered questions. Having said that, let's deal with something we've all heard of. Gravity. The definition of gravity is the natural phenomenon by which physical bodies attract each other with a force proportional to their mass and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Understand? Nah, no me. Let's see if I can find an easier way to explain this. There's only two things I remember them telling me at school. First thing was never do that again to Deborah Jenkinson. And the second thing I remember them telling me was that gravity causes the tides of the sea and causes that apple to fall on that Newton dude's head. And to paraphrase that guy Newton, you know, the guy with the apple on the head, everything in the universe is attracted to everything else in the universe. And this attraction varies according to weight and distance. And I've come up with a practical example of that might explain it to you. And it involves women's breasts. I do realise this next bit might appear sexist or even misogynistic to some people. But to put those people's minds at rest, I'll point out that with my wife, my sister, my mother, my 3 daughters, and the type of people they are, if I was a misogynist, I'd be under the fucking patio. So my example is, you go for a pint one evening to the pub. You go in, sit down, and glance round the room. And you will always stop and stare at the lady with the biggest pair of breasts. Well, I always do. I realise that's not exactly politically correct, but biologically that's the way I'm wired. Sorry about that. Anyway, back to gravity. So there you are in the party, looking at the pair of women's breasts. Now there might be another more endowed lady the other side of the room. But as gravity is also dependent on distance, she will have less of an attraction as she is further away from you. How did I come up with this theory, I hear you ask? Well, what brought me to this conclusion is when I go to the pub, it's always in the company of my wife, Tiggs. Now, Tiggs has sharp elbows, and I'm sure when breasts are being handed out in heaven, she used those elbows to get to the front of the queue. Get me? So in the pub, Tiggs and I always sit next to each other. Therefore, Tiggs and her impressive cleavage is never too far away from me, thus fulfilling the requirements of size and distance to create a very strong gravitational attraction. If proof is needed of this attraction, should any other women enter the room and I feel attracted to them, I can't move off the seat. The gravitational pull from Tiggs is simply greater than the other woman. Well, it's either that or Tiggs grabbed me by the throat with both hands. But as you know, all experiments are variables. Thinking about it is another way of explaining gravity. the fact that we do not spin off into space. I'll explain. Okay, you and a mate go up the kiddies' playground up the road. You get on the roundabout and hold on as tight as you can and get your mate to spin you round as fast as he can. Hold on as tight as you like, but if your mate can spin it fast enough, the centrifugal force would sling you off head first into the Donald Duck play slide. Shit, ah! Now the roundabout was going at best 15 miles an hour, and you were holding on as tight as you could, but you still got up close and personal with Donald Duck. So given we live on the planet Earth, which is spinning round its axis every 24 hours, and has a circumference round the equator of 24,901 miles, you must be spinning at over 1,000 miles an hour if you live on the equator. So why oh why aren't we spun off and splattered over the Donald Duck slides of the cosmos? Something is holding you onto the Earth, and as sure as shit isn't glue, it's gravity. The Earth is big and therefore has lots of mass. You, by comparison, have much less weight. Therefore you are attracted to the Earth more than the Earth is attracted to you. And given you are pretty close to the Earth, well, you're on the fucking surface, how close can you get? The attraction is immense. And to break that attraction, you need something like a rocket with a shitload of thrust. And that's gravity in a nutshell. And I'm the nut. Now let's discuss one of the greatest questions that face mankind today. Is there intelligent life somewhere else out in space? Mind you, after my trip to the post office last week, I'm not too sure we can use the word intelligent in relation to people down here on Earth. Still. So, is there life somewhere else out in space? Apparently, some dude called Drake came up with an equation to work out the possibility of life on other planets. But I'll be fucked with the ragman's own flare in first, if I understand it. He's basically saying what I'm going to explain to you now. Current thinking puts the number of planets in the known universe as 20 sextillion. That's 2 and 23 zeros. 23 zeros! And out of that number, the number of planets that can be expected to hold life, not could hold life, can be expected to hold life, is 40 billion. And that calculation is done on the known universe. We could only be seeing 10% of it, or half of it, or 1% of it. And that's not all. We might be living in the only universe in existence, but we could also be living in one of 100, or 1,000. Nobody knows. I just got this mental picture of all the astrologists in the world being like a man in a hallway and an elephant stuck its tail through the letterbox. And they're all pulling on the trail trying to work out what the fuck's on the other end. But the planet Earth is proof that life can exist. And if you think we're the only one out of the 40 billion probables that could support life, you're some deluded weirdo, or a weird existentialist, or even a Luton Town Football Club supporter. Now let's discuss the distances in relation to space. Firstly, let's start with what we know to get a comparison. The Earth has a circumference of 24,901 miles. If you walk at an average speed of 5 miles an hour, I timed myself to the pub at 8 miles an hour and back at 2 and took the average. That means it would take you 4,980 hours, that's 207 whole days of non-stop walking 24/7 to go round the whole planet. Now that's not an uncomprehendable figure. I mean, if you were born and started walking straight away, it would take you 207 days of walking, right? So you'd be back in time for your first birthday and the balloons and Mr. Man cake. So you get the general idea of the size of the planet. So now let's take the Sun. It has a circumference of 2,720,991 miles. So it would take you 45,349 days to walk around. And that works out to 100 years of walking. I guess you missed your Mr. Man cake. Get the idea? But how to get there? The Sun, that is. It does vary a bit, but the Sun is 92,955,807 miles away. So it would take you 774,637 days, or 2,122 years, walking at 24/7 at 5 miles an hour to even get there. These figures are just about comprehensible to our minds, as we all, I hope, can relate to the time concept of a day, an hour and a year, and most people can walk at 5 miles an hour. But when it comes to space, these units of speed and distance just don't hack it. So it's better to use the term light years. Some posh scientists call it a parsec, but I'm not one of them, so I'm going to stick to light years. A light year is the distance light can travel in 1 year. No shit, Sherlock. If you're in any doubt about the efficacy of using light years over miles, consider this. The next nearest star to Earth after the Sun is 4.2 light years away. That's, wait for it, 24.6 trillion miles. That's 246 and 11 zeros. And that's one shitload of zeros. And now we come to the speed of light. It's 186,283 miles per second. That's fast. That's even faster than my kids go through my wallet. To try and put this in context for you, you know it would take you 2,122 years to walk to the Sun, as we discussed earlier, when it takes 8 minutes and 19 seconds for the sunlight it emits to reach us on Earth. Just a passing thought, but that sunlight travels basically 92 million miles in under 9 minutes, and it's still warm. So how come I bring home a bag of chips from the chip shop, 5 minutes walk away, and they're stone cold when I get in? If you're still with me, try and get your head round this. Light travels bloody quick, right? But to get from one side of our universe to the other takes light 93 billion years. If you can truly comprehend how big that is, you're a better man than me. So far, the things we've discussed in this episode, I'd like to think I have the mental capacity, if not to understand, but to comprehend the concepts, okay? But these next points, think about these too much, and I end up rocking inanely in a corner, having soiled myself. Black holes. Apparently this is a star that has simply run out of fuel and can't stop the massive amounts of gases it's created from collapsing in on itself, drawn in by its core's gravity. Simple so far, right? But the more gases and stuff that is drawn in towards the centre, the core's mass increases, and keeps on increasing. And as we know, the greater a mass something has, the greater its gravitational pull. So the more mass it achieves, the more gravity, and so on until everything that gets too close to it is pulled in, even light. That's why it's called the black hole, because no light can escape. Have you ever heard of an expression, an event horizon? Well, that's the no turning back point for a black hole. Everything that reaches the event horizon ain't fucking coming back. And it's this bit that crumbles my sanity. Nothing ever comes out. Nothing. Zilch. Sod all ever. Maybe you should try it with 2 bags of peanuts, 12 pints of Guinness, 4 Jaeger bombs, and a pork vindaloo. Because in my experience, there's no way that's staying in. It's coming out very quickly one way or the other. Talking about coming out one way or the other, there's a school of thought that says these black holes, there's loads of them, are linked by things called wormholes. So when the event horizon sucks you into oblivion, you instantly appear on a different part of the universe instantaneously. I mean, where did that theory come from? I can't have a feeling it involved lots of talking shit and lots of beer. The other thing that fries my brain and grills my nadgers is time travel and relativity. Now, it's a proven and known fact that if you have 2 clocks exactly the same in every way, you put one on your office desk and the other one you put up in a satellite and have it whizzing round the planet at 20,000 miles an hour. Then bring it back to Earth. The one that has been whizzing round in space will show that less time has elapsed. And this discrepancy has to be taken into account in the GPS system used today around the world. But this is the bit that grills my nadgers. The elapsed time difference is only relative to each other. If you sat watching the desk clock or strapped yourself to the satellite watching that one, you wouldn't notice anything different. It also appears that the faster you go, the more time slows down into the relationship to the other point. So in theory, you leave the Earth on a rocket ship and fly into space as close to the speed of light as possible. You then watch the clock on the rocket for 2 years, turn round and come back. On arrival back at Earth, you study the clock, and the clock tells you you've been gone 4 years. But all your mates may well be dead of old age, and your clothes as sure as shit would be out of fashion. But the real ball buster about this is, if you could go faster than the speed of light, you could theoretically go back in time. And can you imagine what a clusterfuck that would be? I mean, besides the obvious paradoxical inconsistency of if you were to travel back in time and kill your grandfather, if that would stop you coming into existence, there must be a billion other things you could screw up big time. But when you think about it, going back in time could be dead handy. Like years ago I had a chance of going to see Led Zeppelin in Nebworth, or go and spend a weekend with my new girlfriend. And I chose the girlfriend. She lasted 2 weeks, and I've never got to see Zeppelin. But if I could go back in time, I could go to the gig. Or even I could go back to the time where I spilt my ex-mother-in-law out of a wheelchair into the road. I wouldn't change anything, but I'd be ready to enjoy it. But current thinking is that we're never going to go faster than the speed of light, so we haven't got to worry about going back in time. But the people telling you this are probably the same sort of people that told you the Titanic wouldn't sink, or you can't get your girlfriend pregnant on a Thursday. So best you make your own mind up about that. And that's not all. And to help us understand these mind-bending concepts, we rely on physicists, mathematicians, and astrologists. And they only come up with weird ideas. Like there's one that involves a dead cat in a box by a guy called Schrodinger. What the fuck's that about? It goes something like this. Put a cat in the box with something that could kill it, put a lid on the box, and you don't know whether the cat is alive or dead till you open the lid of the box. Well, I think if you put in with a fucking alligator, my money's on the alligator. Whatever way you cut it, it's not looking too good for the cat. It makes you want to call the RSPCA. And another one, the 2-slit experiment. Basically, this one goes like this. You got a card with 2 slots in it, and you fire light at it to work out whether light's a particle or a wave. Because the light that passes through the slots leaves a pattern on the other side. Simply, if light was a particle, it would leave one sort of pattern, and if it was a wave, it'd leave another sort of pattern. Think you've got it sorted? Trouble is, when you're watching the little fucker, it comes back as a particle, and when you're not watching, it comes back as a wave. It's like the particles of light look round saying, no one's watching, go round the side. And no bugger knows why. Couple of deep breaths and I'll be fine. And lastly, I'll leave you with this thought. When I take a cold beer out into the garden, sit down and look up at the stars at night, it comes as a shock to realise that it's all fake. No, wait, I'm not a flat earther. Every star, don't get planets mixed up with stars, in the night sky is between 4.2 and, I don't know, say 100 million light years away. And that means the twinkling star you're gazing up at looking so timeless in the sky may have burnt itself out millions of years ago, long before you were born. And it's going to be another million years before anybody fucking notices, long after you're dead. So remember, next time you stare up at the stars in the sky, all you're looking at is a quick snapshot of how things were, and each snapshot is at least 4.2 years out of date.